Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. I just wanted to take a few seconds to make this screencast to go over the instructions for the poem explication assignment. I know for some classes we weren't able to really get into Schoology because the internet was not working. And then for other classes there were a lot of questions. So I just want to take a minute to go over all of this. So first and foremost, you can choose a poem from our Poem Stations packet. And many students expressed interest in doing poems that are not in the stations packet, and that is absolutely fine. So remember, the term explication means to explicate, which means to completely tear it apart with the aim of an end goal, which in this case is to come up with a solid thesis statement regarding the poem. So you have your poem's title, the poet's name. Step one, very easy, in your chosen poem, annotate from beginning to end. You can do this right in your stations packet. You can set up annotating however you want. Some of you made keys, like everything highlighted in yellow is figurative language, everything highlighted in blue is something else. That is absolutely fine. For those of you doing a poem that's not in the stations packet, I just ask that right in this area here, you cut and paste whatever poem you're doing and stick it right in here under step one and complete your annotating right here. Step two, things to consider. Who or what is speaking in the poem? It may not necessarily be the author. I am not interested in whether or not you're right or wrong. I'm interested in whoever you say the speaker is. How are you rationalizing it? What is your reasoning? How did you defend that or substantiate or explain that? What is the structure of the poem? If you look, this question and this question are pretty much the same. So for those of you that already did this question, I know some classes, some of you are done or halfway done. I mean, you can really do one or the other. I'm essentially asking the same thing. So, looking at this question, does the poem fall into an identifiable subgenre? For example, sonnet, ballad, etc. All I'm looking for here is a description of the poem. For example, the poem is arranged in stanzas and it is free verse. The poem is arranged in stanzas and it rhymes. The poem is not arranged in stanzas and it is in free verse. Some of you said you wanted to do The Raven. That is very dramatic. It's a monologue. He's talking to the ghost of his long-lost love. So again, just tell me, is it stanzas? Is it not? Is it a narrative? Is it telling a story? Does it rhyme? Is it free verse? So you can kind of clump this question and this question together. Moving on, what primarily is the poem about and how do you know that? Pretty simple. Diction and word choice. Why has the poet chosen these particular words? Consider intended connotations and emotions. For example, consider the poem Cassandra, how the poet uses the B word, and consider the intended emotion there, perhaps what the poem would have been without that word. So why did they use those specific words? Imagery, what image does the poem evoke? How are they evoked? Meaning, what does the poem do to evoke it? Does he use detail? Does he use onomatopoeia? Does he use really precise adjectives and description? Literary devices, again, you are not listing all of the figurative language. I'm asking you here to list the most obvious figurative language in the poem. Also consider symbolism or allusions. For example, in More is Kind, we had the eagle that was symbolic. In A Poison Tree at Cassandra, we had literary allusions. And so again, explicating, this all goes to our final step, which is formulating a thesis statement. So I've added a little bit to it from yesterday. I've added some things to consider when creating a thesis statement. So let's jump up to your final step. Formulate a thesis statement on any aspect of the poem based on your information derived from your poem above. You can focus on such things as theme, figurative language use, imagery, diction, style of the poet. And your thesis statement should sound very much like an answer to a constructed response, meaning one solid, precise statement. One sentence. No I, no me, no my, no pronouns. So here's some things to consider. Here is a sample thesis. Through the use of vivid imagery and precise diction, Robinson Jeffers' poem Cassandra portrays a realistic vision of a woman who is enraged. So, some things to consider. Notice I began the thesis statement with through the use of. You are telling me what things the author's using, things like we set up here, figurative language, imagery, theme, through the use of. And then I list two specific elements. In this case, I listed imagery and diction. Follow that same format through the use of what and what. Instead of saying just imagery and diction, notice I spice it up. I say vivid imagery and precise diction. I threw in those little adjectives to make it spicy. And then I end the thesis by telling what those elements, my imagery and diction, do or create in the poem. So putting it all together, through the use of vivid imagery and precise diction, Robinson Jeffers' poem Cassandra, okay, what does that imagery and diction do? It portrays a realistic vision of a woman who is enraged. Follow this format right here, and you will be good. Now, of course, you need to think of, okay, what elements are you going to put in there? What do those elements do? And that's the difficult part, but we will work through that. So hopefully the screencast helped clarify anything. And again, we'll be talking about it more today. And my onliners, feel free to zoom in. Remember, I Zoom live every day. And I look forward to seeing all of your explications soon. Have a good day.